From the John Wick franchise joining the exclusive billion-dollar club, to a potential John Wick 5 raking in even more big bucks. Here's why Keanu Reeves is on the verge of becoming a billionaire. As an actor, musician, producer, and philanthropist, Keanu's a man of many talents. At the moment, though, he's enjoying the success of John Wick Chapter 4, which has smashed box office records and become a global hit. It's not only a hit in terms of, oh, that was a great movie, but it's officially a billion-dollar hit, since ticket sales for Lionsgate's action franchise have surpassed the billion-dollar mark. The 4 films have done incredibly well for themselves, but the billion-dollar mark was crossed thanks to the 4th film, which is the highest-grossing one to date, standing at $425 million bucks. The latest installment was also the most expensive one to make, with a price tag of $100 mil. But clearly, it was all worth it. Chapter 4 even marked a new domestic franchise record, collecting a massive 73.5 million smackers on opening weekend. Audiences and critics are praising the movie for its amazing power-packed performances, and there's no doubt that the movie will earn more dough by the end of its theatrical run. Reacting to hitting the $1 billion milestone, Lionsgate Motion Picture Group Chair Joe Drake released a statement expressing his gratitude and praised the director, actors, and producers of the film who've made each installment better than the last. There's no doubt that Keanu's brought an unprecedented level of success to the franchise, something none of the producers saw coming when they set out to make the first film. No other actor in Hollywood could have ever pulled off the role of John Wick like Keanu. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Leo DiCaprio, you name it, wouldn't have been able to do it like Keanu. It's as if Keanu was born and destined to play Wick, the same way he was destined to play Neo. The 58-year-old star joined the A-listers club with 1989's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And since then, he's kept audiences on the edge of their seats with back-to-back hits like Point Break, Speed, Johnny Mnemonic, The Matrix franchise, Constantine, Street Kings, and the list goes on and on. Now, John Wick Chapter 4 has emerged as the highest-scoring installment on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's only helped the Hollywood megastar add millions to his growing $380 million net worth. Judging by Reeves's reported salary for the 4th film, it looks like his words are more valuable than ever. He made $15 million bucks in pre-release earnings for the film, and even though it has a runtime of 169 minutes, he only has around 380 words of dialogue, which means he was paid 40 grand per word. But you can't deny it isn't well-deserved considering all the coin the studio's made from his work. John Wick's one of those unique franchises that keeps expanding and improving, and it's only gotten more successful with each new movie, especially in terms of ticket sales. In other words, it's a very hot commodity. When the first movie dropped in 2014, the production team wasn't expecting much to come of it, and they never imagined it would lead to one of the biggest action franchises the world's ever seen. Believe it or not, Lionsgate saved 2014's John Wick from going direct to DVD, and director Chad Stahelski was relatively new and untested. Even Keanu suffered a commercial flop 1 year earlier with the release of 47 Ronin, so everyone close to the production was anxiously waiting for the public's reaction to the film. In the end, the first installment raked in $86 million bucks worldwide, and considering its $20 to $30 million budget, a $50 million profit wasn't too shabby, and it was enough for Lionsgate to greenlight a sequel with a slightly larger budget. So the goal of John Wick Chapter 2 was to be better than the first, and it worked. With a budget of 40 to 50 mil, Chapter 2 doubled its initial investment raking in a 174 mil. Increasing the budget allowed producers to add more star power to the franchise like rapper Common, actress Ruby Rose, and Reeves' former co-star Lawrence Fishburne, who famously played Morpheus. The second thing they got right was the expansion of the impressive world building that Chad started with the first flick. Chapter 2 saw Wick travel to Italy and survive a wild gun battle in the Roman catacombs. Thanks to the fantastic reception the sequel received from audiences and critics, a 3rd film was put in the development pipeline. And we all know how trilogy films have a habit of missing their mark, so the pressure was on to get it right and nail it. Take Scream 3, for instance, which is considered to be the worst movie in the franchise, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, or even the recent Creed 3. I mean, I could go on, but you get my point. Threequels are generally terrible, so they're a gamble for studios. But then you have John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, which completely annihilated all these assumptions about threequels. Parabellum had a bigger budget of $75 million and added Halle Berry to the mix, not to mention one of the most exotic shooting locations in the world, Casablanca, Morocco's largest city. It also boasted some of the most dynamic action scenes we'd ever seen in the franchise, including that iconic shot of Reeves riding a horse on a subway line under the streets of NYC. At the time, the third film easily became the highest-grossing movie in the John Wick universe, earning a whole lot of cheddar at the worldwide box office, with more than $328 million to be precise. And by the time John Wick 4 rolled around, within weeks of its release, it had already surpassed the original and John Wick 2. So what was it about Parabellum that sent fans rushing to theaters in droves to see it? Well, it was a combination of things. You had legendary action sequences, memorable assassinations like the one in this Berlin nightclub, and rumors that Wick died. Even though Chapter 4 had the biggest budget so far at 90 to 100 mil, it's still pretty conservative compared to other action blockbusters like Avatar: The Way of Water, which easily cost $350 million big ones to make. John Wick is also a perfect example of casting between an actor and a role, and fans agree with me that the assassin/hero could only be played by someone as cool as Keanu. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's also why people keep coming back for more and more of the John Wick universe. Audiences are clearly hopelessly addicted, constantly craving more, and if 5 more films get made, I guarantee you fans will pack theaters every single time. The phenomenal action scenes are the best in Hollywood. And despite the possibility of Wick dying in the latest Chapter 4, audiences are still calling for a 5th installment in the Wick universe. Chad's been overwhelmed by the response the franchise has received, and says all the love and attention is very flattering. He's open to making another film, but with the release of Chapter 4, he's ready to take a break for a while. Chad and Reeves gave Chapter 4 their all, so it's totally understandable that they need to take a break. The physical and mental stress and pressure that comes with such an enormous undertaking is no joke. So it's best to step back and take a minute to breathe before trying to outdo themselves once again. Every John Wick movie so far has always ended on a cliffhanger and teased a sequel, but despite the success of all 4 films, John Wick 5 still isn't guaranteed. In fact, did you know that a 5th film was already greenlit and then cancelled? So the prospects of John Wick 5 getting made are more uncertain than ever. I mean, there's only so many fights Wick can have, and the series will have to end eventually. But if I'm being honest, ending with Chapter 4 feels premature. If the franchise does continue though, Keanu could soon find himself in the Billionaires Club, as his net worth continues to skyrocket. Initially, the plan was to shoot John Wick 4 and 5 back-to-back like so many other franchises. We saw this with Kill Bill and The Matrix, but Chad dropped the idea so they could focus on one movie at a time and make sure that each one was better than the last. Chad has issues with making movies back-to-back because he feels what you end with is too much of the same thing over and over again, and says quality drops significantly when creators try to work on several different things all at once. A case in point is the Fast and Furious franchise. I rest my case. So, from a potential John Wick 5 raking in even more big bucks to the John Wick franchise joining the exclusive billion-dollar club, that's why Keanu Reeves is on the verge of becoming a billionaire.